Oh, wait, wrong OP. My bad. Yo, it's your girl Kaze, new to the YouTube atmosphere. Now, you don't know me and I don't know you, but we can get to know each other just after I pick apart this really sexy OP. Now, I consider myself an anime connoisseur. I've watched many anime over the years, so I confidently mean it when I say very few anime has ever been as massively crafted as AOT has. I've been a fan of the anime since it debuted in 2013, and it's been on my top 10 list ever since. One of the things that definitely kept me hooked onto AOT was those goddamn openings. Who could forget the millions of weebs prancing around at school in the cons every damn year shouting, with as much patriotic spirit as the US Marines, me included. And I honestly thought Gurren no Yumiya would be undefeated forever. That is until I listened to Rumbling.
DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it back.
When I first listened to it, it took all but a single half second for me to nearly fall out of my chair upon realizing how fucking great it was. Partly because I'm a metalhead. But after giving it a full listen, well, half a listen since we still haven't been given the full version of the song, and I swear to I'm going to cause a rumbling myself if... Never mind. Anyways, I grew to love and appreciate the OP for another reason. The oh-so-hardcore lyrics with so much symbolism and character exploration contained within its very short lines. If this analysis will mean anything, you'll come to know that I'm a huge nerd for academic analysis, and this song brought that shit out of me before the damn thing even ended. Unfortunately, though, not many people share the same sentiment. There's been quite the controversy amongst the community for the fact that it basically spoils the entire plot of AOT. And yeah, that's kind of the case. From start to finish, it spoils more than a Twitter post ever could. But does that really make it any less phenomenal? And all the time and effort that was put into this masterpiece to begin with? But I talk too much. Let's get on with why y'all came here in the first place. Hold up, just a second. Let me preface this by saying all the conclusions made in this discussion are entirely speculative and not to be taken as fact. The discussion itself is based off already established information from the anime. However, I can't help it if I make such sexy, well-written opinions that they sound like the truth. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get down to OP business.
Let's get down to business. Tell the DJ turn it up, bet the DJ bring it back.
So, much like how we're getting straight to the heart of things, so does the OP with its power metal screamo lyrics. Rumbling, rumbling, it's coming, rumbling, beware. Right off the bat, the OP, in tandem with the scene that plays out alongside it, is telling you that this season isn't fucking around and destruction is coming to everybody. And boy is it spoilery. It opens with Eren in all his anti-hero glory, followed by Mikasa and Armin, before transitioning into the aforementioned destructive force that is the thousands of titans stomping their way through the city. Rumbling aside, there are a couple of noteworthy aspects to be discussed, one of which is the depiction of the main trio here. Note the isolated atmosphere and attitude Eren gives off, as well as the extremely determined expression on his face. This is in contrast to Mikasa and Armin, who are notably together and seem to be sitting idle and unaware of what's about to happen. While on the surface level it makes sense for the two to look like so, since they are locked up in a cell, you can thank Yelena for that one. When you really consider how specific their manner of being depicted here is, doesn't it seem extremely reflective of the current nature of their relationship? That is also in addition to how Eren has handled his worldly matters thus far. Eren has always been one to march to the beat of his own drum, impulsively charging forward with a righteous attitude. But ever since the battle in Marley, and even beforehand, he acts as if he's governed by a foresight that no one but him can understand. Which is true. Just like what was said in the previous opening, this is my last war. Emphasis on the word my. It's unfortunate, and this visual serves to emphasize that they are no longer the trio who were once united by a common goal. Broken friendships aside, this all segues into a cataclysmic scene that is the rumbling live on Channel 5 News, with the colossal Titan clones at a steady march, claiming thousands of innocent lives in their wake. The lyric "Beware" fittingly blares overhead as the scene plays out, though it's very ironic considering no warning was given to run for dear life anyway. Right after this, a still scene depicting the infamous brothers in question, Eren and Zeke, with their lineage portrayed as a sea of DNA in the background, are shown. Do take note of how they're facing opposite of each other. While on one hand, this depiction could simply represent their duality, or simply highlight how they're foils to each other, on a more serious hand, it could foreshadow something causing yet another divide in their relationship. We'll leave that up to episode 79 to answer. Referring back to the Titanic LOL apocalypse that was shown, the OP carries on and now something interesting occurs. Both the lyrical narrative and the music itself take a sharp 180 turn. Instead of a continuation of the tones of death and destruction, the visuals open up with an ever solitary, or maybe not so solitary since there are two bird flocks around him, but thoughtful looking Eren, before transitioning into a flashback of friends, allies, and former allies, in addition to a rather relaxed scene of everyday life in Marley. Now, there are a handful of significant things to address about this point in the OP. For one, let's start with the music itself. Again, not only does this once angry, metal-heavy tone transform into something more subdued and mellow, save for a couple of screamo-y outbursts, this tonal change lays the groundwork for some very profound lyrics. All I ever wanted to do was the right thing. I never wanted to be king, I swear. All I ever wanted to do was save your life. I never wanted to grab the knife, I swear. Primarily, based on AOT's narrative thus far, and if the content of the lyrics mean anything, it's safe to conclude that not only are these lyrics reflective of Eren's thoughts and personal experiences, but they are coming from Eren himself. And as such, these lines truly and perfectly sum up the origins of his character. In a special observation of all I ever wanted to do was the right thing, I never wanted to be king, it seems to highlight the very important revelation that Eren, deep in his heart, never wanted all of this. This being his burdensome fate. Eren never sought a position of absolute power, much less to be a martyr or a mastermind orchestrating tragedies or whose very existence is the source of quite a few of them. Eren was simply a kid who, after living in constant fear of undefeatable monsters, coupled with witnessing so many deaths due to them, simply wanted to bring righteous punishment onto these monsters and protect his loved ones. But life is cruel, and fate, along with the Jaegerists respectively, not only forced him to literally and figuratively become the king of these monsters, but burdened him with the task of having to turn his back on the same people he wanted to protect. As for the second line of all I ever wanted to do was save your life, I never wanted to grab the knife, I personally encompass its meaning with what was previously said. However, there is a case to be made about it directly addressing Mikasa, as the specific reference here is to the day Eren killed the men who murdered her parents and attempted to kidnap her. Though I must say I'm uncertain why the memory would be brought up here, or why there's even a sense of regret expressed about it, especially since it was quite necessary to be done. But if the theme of the lyrics here are about regret over one's actions, what can be theorized that Eren is ironically expressing regret over just committing a general act of violence, especially since it did take lives, even if it was done only out of survival instincts. Moving along, now that we've covered the deep concept of the lyrics surrounding the visuals at this point in the OP, we can dive right into the visuals themselves. For starters, they are very on par with the lyrics. Eren, in a stark contrast to how aggressive he looked in the opening scenes, has a very thoughtful expression and attitude here, with the lyrics most likely voicing aloud his thoughts as he walks alongside their headquarters and eventually atop the walls. Flashbacks of bygone days then accompany his solitary walk, and what's significant about them is the fact that there have been times when life, albeit dangerous, was still simple and there was much unity between everyone. This is highlighted by the fact that Mir, Reiner, Annie, and Berthold are present. Moreover, the fact that these scenes are even shown not only show how drastically life has changed, but also symbolizes Eren's unspoken yearning for the simplicity of those times. The scene showing Marley does contradict this idea, as obviously it's something Eren has no personal attachment to or knowledge of, but on its own, it suggests that Marley too had days of its simplicity that are worth being missed by its people. Another aspect of the flashback montage is the one containing Zeke. It's unlike the other two, though, in that it's a mini through-the-years sub-montage, going from a time when he was a wee little ball-playing lad to the infamous Beast Titan. Though this also takes place outside of Eren's perspective, it's significant in that it seems to reference a parallel between the brothers. This reference being that they were both simply kids who were burdened by fate with powers they did not want and tragic paths they were forced to walk on. With the trip down memory lane over for now, the music and lyric content transition back into its original tone equivalent to a Black Sabbath concert. The visuals this time are chock full of what can't even be considered foreshadowing, but a straight up play-by-play of events to come. And if you've been caught up with the anime, you know this was a battle for the goddamn books. Primarily, Eren is shown in his Titan form fighting against Reiner, with Peak and Porco too with their Titans, who are also presumably fighting against him based on their location. We're even given a flashback via a shot of the former Warhammer Titan to the Marleyan incident when Eren ravaged the city. To much surprise, even Armin and Annie with their Titans are shown. And this was the most significant aspect of this montage. Annie is shown first, and she seems to have been broken free from the crystal prison we last saw her in, thus revealing she will finally make her reappearance in the near future. What's more is that, since this overall visual is about Eren fighting against his enemies, it would stand to reason that Annie's forthcoming presence will not be a good one for our anti-hero in particular. And what of Armin? Primarily, a callback to his climatic and literally life-changing fight against, as well as his connection to, Berthold is referenced. A dead-eyed Berthold in the body of his former Titan is shown before the scene transitions into a waking Armin, followed by a scene depicting a colossal Titanized Armin standing amidst a burning city. In light of how, where, and even the fact that he's depicted, Armin's presence is even more concerning than Annie's. Again, if we are to believe that these scenes are meant to show people who Eren must battle against, then there's only one obvious conclusion to be made: that a clash between the two old friends is inevitable. And that's going to be tragic as hell, especially given how unwilling Armin has been in turning his back on Eren. Switching back to the lyrics discussion, in regards to them, what else is there to say except that it perfectly encapsulates everything these particular visuals stand for? Tearless, fearless, burning, blares angrily over the scenes, reflecting not just Eren's attitude as he paves the way for destruction, but the attitudes of the others, who are relentlessly risking life and limb to stop him. Though I will personally say I like to think the burning has more to do with the destruction happening in Marley and Paradise Island than anything else. Continuing on, the OP's tone takes yet another shift, with scenes that are even more symbolic of the narrative than the lyrics this time. Though the confrontational lyrics thematically relate to the scenes, they are not meant to accurately reflect the scene's contents. Focusing on the visuals right now, instead of anarchy and battle, a blink if you miss shot of Titanized Eren is shown with a strange crystal cocoon that also contains a barely visible figure encased in his grasp, followed by a glowing body of a young girl floating atop a surge of blue energy that seemingly takes the shape of a tree at the end. Now, that's all some very symbolic imagery, but extremely confusing. What could it possibly mean narratively? First, it is important to know who the figure in the cocoon is. For obvious reasons, the figure isn't Annie, as she was shown to have been released from her crystal confines. But if not her, then who? If you're caught up with episode 78, then you already know who she is. But for those of you who aren't, let's reach the conclusion together. Recall the sandy desert that Zeke awoke in when he was near death, and the girl who quite literally brought him back to life. The sandy desert is the paths, or the place that exists outside of time and space and connects all subjects of Ymir together, Titan holders in particular. This is also the same place depicted in the scene with the girl who floats above the blue energy tree thing. And who is the singular entity that permanently resides in this domain? Mir. And Anne, given how the scene is directly shown after the scene of Eren holding that weird figure cocoon thing, come on, you have to have guessed who the person in the cocoon is then. Yep, it's Mir. And if you needed further proof, just look at the appearance similarities. The cocoon figure might not be extremely visible, but if you look hard enough, you can see it, and then compare it with the actual images of Mir. Now that we've got this gigantic establishment of a persuasive opinion, we can return to the original question, which is, how are we to interpret all this imagery? Simply put, it can be theorized that Eren will gain the powers of the founding Titan. Just look at how he was holding the cocoon, as if to say he literally and figuratively has the power in the palm of his hands. You can even take it a step further and interpret the shot as Eren not just having the founding Titan power, but full control of Mir herself. An inarguable worst-case scenario for the world in every possible way. You know, I just gotta say, as I go on with this analysis, I'm just reminded more and more of how dangerous of a motherfucker Eren really is. I think we need some lyrics about that. Anyways. And speaking of lyrics, right on the downbeat of the previous scenes with Eren fighting, the OP tones down with some interesting lyrics. Interesting in that they, like I mentioned before, thematically relate to the visuals, but do not address its contents in particular. They're also notably sung before the Eren Mir scenes. You tell me what I have missed, still wandering in the deep mist. Personally, I have a strong feeling that these lines are to be taken figuratively, but I find it very undecipherable. Who is it that's missing something, and what is the something? Moreover, if the still wandering in the deep mist means anything, it most likely means that someone is lost. But who, why, and over what? I can't remember any scene in AOT in which fog had any symbolic meaning. However, this song is Eren's voice, so I'm going to chalk it up to him simply calling out everyone's naivety and ignorance for not understanding his goals, hence why they're lost. Truly, I'm just pulling well thought out ideas out of my ass, so if y'all have any ideas about the true meaning, please leave them in the comments. As the OP carries on, it takes yet another 180 turn in its narrative. First things first, it's important to note that just like the preceding parts of the OP, the meaning within the lyrics and the visuals here also diverge from each other yet again. However, they are made a little more thematically close-knit here than the other ones. Let's focus on the lyrics first, and they are as follows. If I lose it all, slip and fall, I will never look away. If I lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. And finally, if I lose it all, outside the wall, live to die another day. The purpose of the line spoken here can simply be interpreted as Eren mulling over the possibility of the failure of his goals and voicing his desperation over his desire to prevent that. That conclusion is a little bit obvious, but let's dissect the specifics of it anyway. The "it all" can almost certainly be taken to be a reference to his battle against the world, the freedom he fought for, the friends he sought to protect, and even his own life. The fact that the "if I lose it all" is constantly repeated, coupled with the very significant "I will never look away," is proof of how significant it is for him to win, as if he can't stress just enough how catastrophic it would be if he lost. Which is ironic, isn't it? Additionally, the outside the walls is definite proof that he's referencing to the final battle for the world. With the moral to the lyrics established, what then of the visuals? And how is its underlying meaning any different than the lyrics' meaning? Well, for starters, the aforementioned common aspect that makes it relative to the lyrics is the fact that it contains a couple of scenes depicting the very battle Eren's speaking of. The audience is shown machines of war firing into the air and seas, and citizens standing in fear and awe at something unseen to us viewers, or are running for their lives. More importantly, a close observation of the citizens would show that what's happening is indeed in Marley, as you can see Marlians and the identity armband wearing Eldians mixed together. As such, this all more or less indicates that the point of the visual is to reveal that Eren has successfully brought the rumbling to Marley, and more tragically, that Mikasa and the others weren't able to stop him before he could even leave Paradise Island. Though, that's not to say he was successful in completing the rumbling, and what's the story without the villain at least semi-succeeding in the start of his evil plans anyway? Now, on to the matter that makes the visuals more different than what the lyrics are going over, with said matter being the scenes that are shown in the middle of this segment of the visuals. Eren is shown standing above the clouds, also looking at something unseen, but one could argue that he's simply observing the chaotic unfolding of his destructive machinations. The scene is quickly followed by a transformation into his younger self, who also stands above the clouds, but, unlike his older self, is shown smiling. A very likely reason as to why these visuals were included, as well as in this particular way, is because it's meant to highlight the stark contrast between how his past and present self viewed the outside world. While the younger Eren once looked to the skies and viewed it as a symbol of hope, freedom, and proof of the vastness of the outside world, the older Eren realizes how horrifying that vastness really is, and that instead of hope and freedom, there is nothing but enemies that lay in wait for the citizens of Paradise Island. There's also the fact that in the silhouette of Eren's childhood form, there's a brief flashback to the incident in which he took human life to save Mikasa, which, like the last time it was brought up in the OP, I don't have too much to say about. Clearly it's important or wouldn't have been shown twice, but I really have no idea why this is so important, so I'd love to hear you guys' opinion about it in the comments. There's also one more notable thing to address about the scenes. During its final parts, with "If I lose it all outside the walls" blaring in the background, yet another flashback of the days of yore is shown, with a shot featuring silhouettes of all the former Survey Corps during their early cadet days. You can tell this is a flashback because you see what's definitely Mir and Astoria's silhouette paired up to the far left, and Annie, Reiner, and Berthold, you can always tell when it's Berthold, his fucking colossal sized ass, grouped up to the far right, and even Eren is included here, front and center with his former best buds Mikasa and Armin. And what other reason could there be for the inclusion of such a scene, other than being part of the simpler days when all they had to do was venture outside the walls, try not to get killed, that used to be their daily lives? Okay, now we can get back to the present. Oh, wait, nope, spoke too soon.
Surprise, motherfucker.
If you thought that was the last flashback, then you're dead wrong, because we're taking yet another trip down memory lane. But don't worry, this is truly the final one. Though I will say, of all the flashbacks, this is probably the most saddest and significant one. The scene starts out by showing the Eren Mika Min trio, and no, we're not talking about ships, you D-Gen, during their innocent, carefree days, frolicking through the fields to reach a tree that Eren used to nap under. Once they reach the tree, a leaf blows by and Mikasa and Armin disappear, and immediately after, a brief transition of an aging Eren is shown. In his adult form, he then walks away from the tree, and a close-up shot of his eyes are shown, with quite an ominous scene reflected within them. Now, we can easily interpret the kid-to-adult transformation as a representation of who Eren once was to who he is now. From a young, carefree child who dreamed about exploring the world, to a determined teenager who wanted to save the world, to finally a battle-hardened, hard-hearted adult who intends to destroy that very world. Just to further deep dive, you can even say that Eren walking away from the tree is an action symbolizing how he's walking away from his past, if we are to take the tree as a symbol of his innocent youth. But the real meat and potatoes of this scene is the still shot reflected within Eren's cold eyes. It's very obvious that it's a 4K Ultra HD live stream of the rumbling, what with the legion of colossal titans marching about, but what's really disturbing is the goddamn floating whatever the fuck type of centipede with the most advanced state of kyphosis is known to man that's shown, and the horrifying truth of what or who the centipede is.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
And yeah, it's Eren, or rather Eren in his final form as a founding titan. This revelation was almost too obvious if you ask me. Oh, and remember the earlier scene when Eren was levitating above the clouds like a genie? Well, that makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it? Honestly, if this is what the founding titan looked like, I would have just kept the DBZ 10-pack abs having ass muscles over 9,000 having ass attack titan if I were him. Gross looking abominations of a so-called centipede aside, let's circle back to the music. You didn't think I forgot about that, did you? So, what are we to make of the lyrics? I don't want anything, I'm just here too, before a small pause, transitioning back into the violent tone with the yelling of beware. Let's address everything except the beware, cause that's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty ironic that I don't want anything is said, considering the fact that everything Eren's done so far has been governed by his own unexplainable foresight and goals. Then there's the fact that the sentence breaks off and ends incomplete, leaving listeners to wonder, well, what are you here to do? First, recall the opening stanza of the OP in which he says, all I ever wanted to do was the right thing, and all I ever wanted to do was save your life. Now, consider the things that motivated everything Eren has ever done. The I don't want anything sentence doesn't need to be finished for you to understand the most likely answer. That answer being that he's just here to save everyone, or everyone important to him. Everything Eren has done, from the good to debatably bad, has never been out of selfishness and greed. On the contrary, everything he's ever done was always out of consideration for others. Sure, he's imposing his will onto everyone and stubbornly refusing to find peaceful solutions, but Eren is simply a case example of a person with good intentions gone disastrously wrong. Nevertheless, all this still does contradict the fact that he says, I don't want anything. And to that I say, this must be Eren's way of saying that what he must ultimately do is of greater importance than his personal feelings about the matter. Alas, we finally enter the final scenes of this grand OP. There are no more glorious lyrics to dissect, but the visuals are a whole different story, literally, and also absolutely confusing. The scenes are as follows. A big old titan foot coming down on bloodied ground, only to be immediately replaced by a still shot of a human foot that has trampled a butterfly, its wings having been broken. Now, as confusing as this may all seem, since it contains no direct references to anything unlike the other scenes I've done, I can't be the only one who found this extremely foreshadowing as a motherfucker. First, we don't really have to address the scene with the Titan's foot as it pretty much speaks for itself. The thing was simply debuting a video from his OnlyFans feet fetish account. Now, let's get into the human foot scene. Whose foot does it belong to, and why is it specifically shown having murdered a poor butterfly? And what does the butterfly even represent? Well, after a little click-clacking on my keyboard doing a little interweb research about the symbolism of butterflies, I found quite interesting information. According to spiritual beliefs, butterflies typically represent the concepts of transformation, rebirth, life, and hope, with an emphasis on life and transformation. If we are to apply this to AOT, then that would foreshadow an extremely tragic end. Let's recall the visuals once again. Not only is the butterfly dead, but its death is a direct result of a human's actions, keyword being human. Given the direction of the narrative that the story is going, it would seem as though there will be a definite end to everything the butterfly represents. And in light of Zeke and Eren's plans, this scene can either mean that, 1, the foot belongs to Zeke, thus meaning that it was he who's brought the end with his success in the Eldian sterilization plan, or 2, the foot belongs to Eren, and he's brought the end by succeeding in his rumbling plan, and the world got fucked raw with no condom on that one. Either end sounds extremely devastating, but the world will be in much more dire straits if it's Eren's foot. And with that, a most glorious OP has reached its conclusion. Well, my throat hurts. Didn't know it was possible to draw out a single minute and a half for this long, but when something is so chock full of symbolism and deep context, it's hard for me to ignore it. Again, I just want to reiterate that everything said thus far has been information established in the anime, and no conclusion made is a fact. Just a very, very sexy, persuasive opinion due to my academic skills. And if these opinions become fact, then that just means I wasn't as stupid for going to college for a useless degree as I thought. Before even listening to the OP, I knew it was going to be a banger because it's like AOT. It's no exaggeration to say that no other anime really gives hit after hit OP like AOT has. Like I mentioned before, one of the main things I loved about this OP is its meaning. It truly is set apart from the others by how instead of using the lyrics and visuals to reflect the story as a whole, this OP decides it should be taken as a personal exploration of Eren's thoughts, goals, and overall character. This song is not for or about the world. This song is for and about Eren. I will say though, in my personal opinion, I firmly believe that the Rumbling is the #1 OP in the series. Yes, I said it. It's better than Guru no Yumiya, and that's the hill I'm gonna die on proudly. Even if you don't agree with me, you'd be a liar and a half if you didn't at least acknowledge how this OP is sending this series out with a goddamn bang. And for all of you people who dislike the OP because it's too spoilery, there is a certain rumor. Now, take what I'm about to say with the world's tiniest grain of salt, but this rumor has stated that the anime is actually going to have a different ending than the manga. Now, for what reason, who knows? Maybe it could be done to pacify the folks who unfairly hated the manga's ending, thus giving us the Neon Evangelion treatment, or simply meant to give an alternate ending because why not? Personally, I wouldn't mind that. It will make for a great analysis discussion. However, it might spark an unnecessary debate over which ending should be considered canon, blah 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 blah, the community will be on fire again. We don't need that. Anyways, on a more serious note, I truly and thoroughly enjoyed dissecting this opening like a frog at a school lab. Like I said, I am someone who loves literature, and one of my majors in college was English. I'm also an emerging writer, and I even used to write songs just for fun. So I have a really special place in my heart for lyrical narratives, especially when it comes to anime. There's always so much you can garner from the lyrics to understand and predict an entire series, and it's truly so mesmerizing. I would love to continue doing this type of content, and if you enjoyed it and want to see more, please do like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more. I also have a Twitter and Instagram, so you can follow me there. Also, I would love if you can comment some songs you'd like to see me analyze. Even if it's from an anime I never heard before, that's perfectly okay. It'll be interesting to see if I can understand the anime through just the OP alone. I might even watch it if it's interesting. And let's see what else. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my content. Oh, did I already say that? Well, I'm saying it again.
Clown. That's clown shit.
LOL. Anyway, this has been a deep dive into AOT's very final OP of the century, and I hope you guys can take from this just a little more appreciation of the OP and the narrative structure of AOT as a whole. This has been your girl, Ann Kaze, out.